Back in 2007, when I was a kid, I stood behind the blocks at a swimming gala. I remember the air smelled like chlorine, the water was still. Parents lined the walls, coaches were behind the blocks. I looked around and the other swimmers looked calm. I kept adjusting my goggles, stretching my shoulders, pretending that I was warm and acting casual. But I wasn't thinking about winning that race. I was thinking about losing, what it would look like, what people would think. And for a moment, before the buzzer went off, I wished I could just disappear. And that urge to disappear doesn't end when you grow up. It just gets smarter. As an adult, it probably doesn't look like a pool. It looks like an office, a conference room, a restaurant. A moment where someone says, "So, what do you think?" And your mind doesn't jump to an answer, but instead evaluates the risk of saying something stupid. And the part that people miss, feeling like a fraud isn't necessarily about being unqualified. More often than not, it's the result of building a version of yourself that cannot survive losing. I was a half-decent swimmer growing up and I hated losing. Not disliked it, I hated it. And as I got better and better and the competition stiffer and stiffer, I began to only enter events that I was almost certain that I would win. Because winning didn't just feel good, it kept the image intact. And losing didn't just feel bad, it shattered the identity. And for a while, it worked. People think you're super talented. Expectations rise. They talk about you like you're that guy. But then a dangerous thing happens. And the perception grows faster than reality. And when that happens, you're not playing to win anymore. You're playing to not be exposed. So I competed less and less, then almost not at all. Not because I didn't care, but because every event stopped being a competition and started being a test of my identity. God forbid I lose. And that's how the fraud feeling gets built. Not from one singular failure, but from a pattern. You only show up when you can control the outcome. You only speak when you can sound impressive. You only post when you can look perfect. So from the outside, you look consistent, like you've got your shit together. But internally, you feel fragile. Because you're not trusting your attributes, you're trusting your ability to mitigate and minimize risk. And what makes it even worse is the more good you look on the outside, the more terrifying it becomes to be human. Because now you're not just protecting your work, you're protecting the version of yourself that people believe in. So you overthink, you over-prepare, you delay. Because you're trying to completely eliminate the possibility of being outed, being fraud-checked. A fraud isn't someone who struggles. A fraud is someone who pretends they don't. And over time, I noticed that the goal isn't to feel confident. The goal is to build a self-image that's so strong that it can tolerate losing. Because if losing threatens who you are, you will start shrinking your life to stay safe. And it won't look like fear. It'll look like, I have standards. It'll look like waiting until things are ready. Confidence isn't, I know I'll win. Confidence is, win or lose, I'm still me. And once you accept that, you stop living to protect the image and you start living to expand the truth. So if you feel like a fraud, don't ask yourself, am I good enough? Ask, what part of me thinks losing would be fatal and why? Because that might be the real issue, not your ability, but your relationship with exposure.